Intelligent Ramblings with your host, Bill Lofton. Co-hosted by Gary Glenn and William Howington with help from John Cohn.
Welcome to Intelligent Ramblings. I'm Bill Lofton. I'm your host with my co-host Gary Glenn, John Cohn, and William Howington. Well, let's get right to the headlines, guys. Guilty as charged, 34 felony counts. Pretty cut and dry what they think about him in New York and his dealings. Not sure what's going to come of this, but we do know one thing. New York's going to take his guns away from him. They're revoking his gun license because he is now a felon.
They need to leave that man alone.
Because of that. Sorry,
Say
William,
what?
I stepped on what you were saying.
That's all right. I'm just saying they need to leave that man alone.
Well,
I've already got
the next thing that's supposed to happen is
he's
he's going to be sentenced on July 11th, and then his appeal will probably go forward right after that. But he has to get sentenced first. And sorry, Gary.
Oh yeah, and that could be tied up for a long, long time.
That's
I've
true.
already gotten a letter. I've gotten an e-letter from our esteemed Congressman Andrew Clyde. This is the guy who puts AK-47s on his campaign posters. About all of the reasons why this was bad, why the ties of this and that, and somebody's connected to somebody who's connected to somebody who did this, who did that. And it's all just, you're just looking for connections to try to prove a point. And now on the other side, what's happening is the Republicans, of course, are now going after Hunter Biden. And it's all politics. And we either just need to throw up our hands and admit that everything is politics, or just go hide in a hole or something somewhere, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
I
all
think
politics.
it is all politics, Gary, but there's politics and then there's politics. And the Trump verdict is like serious business. The Hunter Biden thing is like tit for tat, and is not nearly as important as the decision that came down for all those counts against Trump.
Well, I want to know if he's going to get his money back from Stormy Daniels since she didn't keep her mouth shut.
That's a perfectly valid question, though. I mean, think about it. Is he going to get his money back, or can he prosecute? Can he prosecute her for going against her word to
take it to civil court?
That's funny.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't see that one
I don't
going
think it's
very
I
far.
don't think it's a crime to tell a lie unless you're on the stand.
That's true.
Yeah, I think he can kiss that money goodbye.
I like the question though.
Oh, I do too. I thought that was hilarious.
Oh no!
Well,
I
speaking
broke
of-
my NDA.
Speaking of Hunter
Throw me in
Biden,
the briar patch.
Hunter's in trouble. I heard some of the testimony today that his girlfriend said, or a friend of his said that 3 weeks before he was huffing and puffing on some crack, and she knew for a fact 3 weeks before he bought the gun, he was huffing and puffing crack. But then she said, I wasn't around him at the time that he bought the gun. I hadn't seen him in several weeks. So I don't know if that ties him directly to it or not.
Well, what they're saying is that he, at the time, he had given up the hard drugs and was just on booze. To me, that's sort of a fine line. Well, you know what? I'm not high on crack, but I'm drunk. But I guess the problem with that is that alcohol is not illegal and crack cocaine is. So I don't know where this is going to go. I can't see any jail time or anything being, but it's all being brought up, just one party against the other party. And he said,
I mean,
said, and finally, unless you've got the time to run down all of this stuff, who do you believe?
I mean, yeah, and the fact, I mean, would this have been in court and a major headline if this had been Joe Blow's son-in-law, or our son-in-law, or something like that? I mean,
No.
be national headlines? No,
Not at
nobody,
all.
nobody gave a shit.
No.
I kind
So
of
it's
think
all-
they have a good case against him. He's probably going to get
Well,
convicted.
it's the same. Well, and yeah, he probably will. And the other thing that you think of, let's turn it around. If this had been just some businessman who had been accused of all of this stuff, would there have been the intense media scrutiny that they put on Donald Trump? The answer to that question is probably not. But you accept that sort of scrutiny when you put yourself in the public eye. It's like people who get paid millions of dollars to do these things, and then they complain that they're noticed for it. I don't get that. You see a lot of entertainers and athletes and so forth. They want to have it both ways. They want to be world famous and get paid lots of money, but they don't want to be bothered with the public. Okay, what do you want?
Well, the old quotation is that's the price of fame.
Well, this thing with Stormy Daniels took place way before he was president.
Exactly. There's a price to be paid.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure it took place.
Oh, yeah.
Was he married at the time?
But it was,
Yeah,
it
he was
was when he
married.
was running for president.
No,
But it came
he was
out.
married at the time. He was married.
Mm-hmm.
And it did take
Yeah.
place before
And-
the campaign, but the problem
In fact,
is
his
he
wife
tried to
had just
make
given-
it go away so it wouldn't turn up during the campaign.
Well, it's
And there's
Do
nothing
you think that-
inherently illegal about paying people to keep quiet.
well, on the other end, do you think that if I'd have done what Trump's done and lied on my the way I did my finances like that, do you think that I would not go to jail, or I'd just get fined? Is he
I
going to
would
be not? Is he not going to jail because he's the ex-president? Or, I
Not
mean,
with that judge. They handpicked him, even though it was supposed to be a random draw.
well, the thing about it is that he's been dogging that damn judge. I don't understand right now what he's. I don't understand a lot that he does, but he's dogging the damn judge that is gonna sentence him, which makes zero sense. I mean, he ought to be at least not saying anything. But to come out of the courthouse and saying the judge is all kinds of bad names he said about him, that don't make sense.
So let's go back
let
to
me-
Williams' comment.
Well, let me circle
about-
back to what William said. How did they handpick him?
I don't know how they did it, but they did it. He wasn't even on the list of people that were supposed to judge the case.
What
And they ended
list?
up with him anyway. There was a
So
list
if,
of judges.
if memory serves, there is a pool of judges that can sit on these cases in that court. And yes, it was a random selection. His number came up, it became his case. It wasn't like somebody said, you know,
I don't think he was in the pool, though, is what I'm saying. Best I can remember what I heard.
Yeah, well, where'd you hear that from? One of those conspiracy theorists on WSB?
No. I don't know where I heard it.
I don't see that. That's the problem. That's our problem. It's just regular citizens walking down the street who don't have a dog in the fight or a bone to pick. Oh well, it was this. That's the way it is. I heard this on such and such. Oh no, it's the other way. Who do you believe? I think you have when you get to that, you go back to what is the character of the individual we're talking about. Oh yeah, believe me. If you don't think I'm telling the truth, just ask me.
We don't have Walter Cronkite or Huntley and Brinkley doing the news anymore. There's no telling what they're going to say on the news.
No,
well, it's slanted either way.
Well,
it's slanted either way. Any way you look at it.
Yeah, you.
I mean, you go watch NBC, and I don't watch NBC News anymore because it was so slanted towards the liberals. And I'm definitely never going to watch Fox because it's so heavily slanted towards the damn conservatives. So there's not a whole lot else. I mean, I watch ABC News most of the time, and they're pretty straight up. And then if I hear something on there, I'll research it with AP. I go to the website AP and verify what they say, which is not my job, but I still verify it. So I know they're not making it up. But and CBS, I like watching that too because that lady news person is gorgeous. Just makes it nicer hearing the news from her.
Yeah, that makes her credible and she looks good.
Yeah, she couldn't be lying if she was it. And I mean, it's got to be vetted in national news somehow. I mean, but I don't know.
I think they can't put up lies and stuff.
There's shades of meaning that you can tilt it one way or the other without doing an outright lie. Oh, Nora O'Donnell did do a pretty good job with the Pope, by the way, when she interviewed him for CBS. That was a pretty good interview.
That was an interesting interview.
It was.
They had a gun attack on our embassy in Beirut by some whacked out Irish gunman today. Just came up to the embassy and just started automatic rifle fire. I mean, they got him, but our embassies aren't in Beirut. Didn't kill him, but they got him. Him and four of his buddies. I didn't even know we still had a embassy in Beirut. I didn't think we were on good enough terms with them to.
I was going to say, I wouldn't want to work there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you got 10 million Hajis within 2 miles wanting to kill you.
Yeah, you have to get pretty good Marines there to work that. I assume the Marines, they usually work all.
So do we think this is like the tip of an iceberg and there's more coming at other embassies, or what do you think?
I think it was late breaking and they don't know.
It's
I think
isolated.
it was an individual.
Isolated nut job, and there's no.
From ISIS.
He did have ISIS on his vest. Now, whether that was just his idea or it was sanctioned remains to be seen. I guarantee you ISIS is not upset that he did that.
No, they don't have a problem with it. Well, now that President Biden has okayed American weapons to be launched into Russia, Putin is warning that he has the option to give some of his weapons to some of his friends that could reach the USA. You think that's going to stir us up more if, say, some half-witted country sends some missiles at us that's close enough to hit us? You think that'll get us in the boots on the ground?
Oh, yeah. I think we'd wipe somebody off the face of the earth if they shot missiles toward us.
Yeah, that would be an instant for retaliation, and you wouldn't have to make it nuclear either.
Yeah.
Put an
The
aircraft
thoughtful and
carrier
responsible
off the coast of whatever country that is, and let them have it.
Wait, let's see if he can really do what he's saying, Putin, I mean. And the more impulsive me wants to say, screw you, buddy, bring it. And, let the chips fall.
Yeah, the chips would fall, that's
Well,
for sure.
Putin is former KGB, so and his idea is whatever he wants to do, he can do. What he didn't count on was the kind of resistance he's facing in the Ukraine now. I think he thought they'd roll in there and be done in a month or two, at the most. And instead, it's dragged on and on and on. And now he's searching for allies to help with the sanctions that they are having to undergo, led by the United States. And some of these people that he is allying himself with economically, they simply do not have our best interests at heart. But they also are not necessarily going to try to cut off their nose to spite their face. If they have economic interest in the United States, they're treading very carefully as well. It's complicated.
It's a mess, but I'm going to repeat what I always say, which is we've got a chance to do some real damage to a country that's been an enemy of ours and many others for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's overextended, and we ought to just press as hard as we can.
I agree. They're a thorn in everybody's side, and he's throwing his weight around what's left of it.
Well, that
You broke up there, Gary.
I wanted to.
economically.
Okay, go ahead, Gary.
I
Economically,
was just going. Economically, it's what broke apart the old Soviet Union. It's what broke apart the old Soviet Union. It wasn't militarily. It was the fact that they had become so top-heavy and so debt-ridden that they were trying to keep up with Reagan and his Star Wars stuff. It broke them. And this is our hope now for what's left of the old empire that the Soviets are trying to reestablish. That's obviously what Putin wants to do. And our hope now is that the same thing is going to happen. He cannot do this and sustain it because you just can't afford it anymore. I think he's in over his head and doesn't want to realize it. Or maybe he does realize it and doesn't care. Oh, Fred Talbert. Welcome, Fred.
Good, Fred.
Hey there, Fred. Thanks
good
for
to
being
see you, Fred. Thanks for being here.
Putin needs to go about the same time Biden needs to go. Just get both of them out of there. They've got to clear up everything.
William, I would agree with you, except that, and my problem with the Democrats is they should have chosen a better candidate a long time ago. But if you're the incumbent president, you got to run. it's hard to beat the incumbent, even if he is 80 years old. And
Crazy.
so
All right, guys. Why don't we go on to another aspect of the show? I think
All
we
right.
wore that out pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I guess it's my turn to have the spotlight for a little while solo. So, for a while, I want to take you away from the latest machinations of the Democrats and the Republicans and talk a little bit about something for you to work on this summer. In a couple of weeks now, I'm going to be speaking at the South Bend United Methodist Church in Hall County. Now, I say speaking, I told people quite some time ago I was called to speak, not to preach, although sometimes that turns into the same thing. But anyway, South Bend, the folks over there, fine church in Hall County, older congregation, which is common in a lot of organized churches today, particularly after the pandemic, when the majority of people in the country now, the largest group, I guess I should say, in the country now, claim to have no particular religion as their religion. In any event, there's a lot of joy there. They sing the great old hymns, and sometimes you just feel at home there, especially people of our generation, my generation, me and my wife. Now this is not really going to be a religious message. If you want to hear a religious message, you can come hear me speak on the 16th there. But what I want to talk to you about tonight is joy. Joy, happiness. What makes you happy? Why not turn off some of this stuff, kind of what we talk about at the first part of the show? Turn that off for a little while and go do something that makes you happy. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a little fun now and then. In fact, I urge you to go out and have a little fun now and then, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody or it's illegal or something like that. And it should not be your sole purpose in life or something like that. Have a little fun. Go take a walk with your sweetie. See a movie. Have a picnic. Rub their feet. Let them rub yours. Have a little fun. Go watch a ball game. Go watch some of these kids play. Especially, I don't want you to be creepy or anything, but especially if you've got grandchildren that are playing now. You talk about having some fun. We're going to do some of that this weekend, at least we plan to. And there's nothing like it. When you got a dog in the fight and you're watching your grandson or your granddaughter out there having a good time, and kids at this age, they want to win. They're already in the situation where they want to win, but they're mostly out there to have a good time. And you'll have a good time too. In other words, for this summer, I give you permission to go out and have some fun. Go do that. Now, tomorrow, I want you to pause a moment in whatever deliberations you have and say a prayer of gratitude, because tomorrow is the 80th anniversary of Operation Overlord, colloquially known as D-Day, which, by the way, doesn't stand for anything. D-Day just means the day that you decide to pull the trigger and do that invasion of Normandy. Tomorrow, the 80th anniversary of an invasion which changed the course of the war and had a great part of literally saving the world. And that's no exaggeration, folks. If the Nazis had won World War II, we would be living in a vastly different climate. That's my timeout. Thanks for yours. I'm Gary Glenn.
This webcast is brought to you by William Lofton Photography. They can be found at williamlofton.com. Offering event residential portraiture at williamlofton.com.
Hey, so I want to follow up on something Gary said. It is a lot of fun if you have grandchildren and you get the chance to go watch them play whatever sport they enjoy. It is a ton of fun. Don't let one of those games go by without going to see them play. So my topic tonight is about college football as a business post or after the House versus NCAA settlement agreement that happened recently. And this settlement agreement between the NCAA and the Power 5 football conferences and the parties to 3 different lawsuits was if the settlement agreement resolves those 3 lawsuits. And really quick, the 3 lawsuits were House versus NCAA, Hubbard versus NCAA, and Carter versus NCAA. They were all brought by athletes claiming the NCAA violates antitrust law, which they do. And the NCAA and the Power 5 conferences decided to settle because if they lost in court, if those lawsuits all went to court, they probably, number one, would have lost and would have had to pay a lot more money and sooner than if they reached a settlement agreement out of court. Also, all the constraints on NIL that are there now would be gone. So it would become more and more of the Wild West that Kirby Smart talks about. And the NCAA would become even more irrelevant than it already is. The settlement agreement has 2 main components. There's a $2.8 billion settlement. Tell me college football is not a big business. All the conferences, all the Power 5 conferences and the NCAA will have to pay that much to current and former athletes back to 2016 and forward for 10 years because the athletes involved in the class action claim they have lost NIL revenue. And it also sets up a framework where student athletes would be paid directly in the future. Each of the Power 5 conference schools would have a spending cap of $22 million annually. So this is looking more and more like a professional football league tacked onto the side of college football. Really quick, the Power 5 conferences involved are the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the Pac-12, soon to be the Pac-2 or 3, and the SEC. The impacts are, who knows, to, this is my best guess. The agreement still has to be ruled on by the courts. So none of this is certain yet. But if it makes its way through the courts and keeps its form that we know it in right now, it's a massive opportunity for all college athletes, especially college football players. It's a financial loss for all the conferences, the Power 5 conferences, and the teams in the NCAA. And it's an opportunity, though, for the stronger Power 5 conferences and teams. The settlement could cost so much that some schools will consider closing down athletic programs and either not participating in college football anymore or shutting down other programs so they can participate in college football. It's also another bad day for the NCAA, and that couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of hypocrites. Farther down the road, it's closer to the end of the NCAA. Can't wait for that. College football is going to become more of a have versus have not when it comes to conferences and teams. Student athletes will become more uncommon, and the NIL collectives will become more important. And the transfer portal is going to get a lot worse before it gets any better. So that's my talk tonight about the business of college football. Hope you enjoyed it.
Good evening. Here's the sports. In the Stanley Cup Hockey Championship, we got the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers face off Saturday at 8 o'clock. Now, the interesting thing is this. These two teams are farther apart by latitude than any other two teams have faced off in a North American Championship game. Now, latitude is the distance north or south from the equator. The equator is 0 degrees latitude. The North Pole is 90 degrees north latitude. The South Pole is 90 degrees south latitude. For reference, Gainesville is 34 degrees, 29 degrees north latitude. Now, Edmonton is, I can't even read my handwriting here, but Edmonton is 53 degrees latitude, north latitude, and Sunrise, Florida, where the Florida Panthers are, is 26.71 degrees south. That's a pretty good bit of difference. Edmonton is north of Calgary and north of Vancouver. The distance between Sunrise, Florida and Edmonton is over 3,000 miles, at 3,081. But that's not the furthest distance. The furthest distance would have been if Vancouver would have been in the playoffs. It would have been 3,486 miles. But like I said, Edmonton and Sunrise, Florida, the difference between the latitudes is farther than any other championship in the history of sports in North America. I thought that was interesting. It may not be to you, but it was to me. In college softball, we have two teams from the Big 12 playing, Texas and Oklahoma. Both these teams will be in the SEC next year, the Southeastern Conference, the same conference that Georgia and Alabama and Kentucky and Tennessee and all of them are in. But they're in the Big 12 now, and they're facing off later this week, the best 2 out of 3, to see who wins the college softball championship. Oklahoma's won about 3 out of the last 4, or maybe the last 3. But anyway, the University of Georgia will host a super regional in baseball. They just won their regional in Athens by beating Army, UNC Wilmington, and Georgia Tech. I saw the UNC Wilmington game, and it was a close game, but Georgia came out on top of that one. But they're playing North Carolina State now in the Super Regional, best 2 out of 3, and the winner will go on to the College World Series. There'll be 8 teams in that. Let's see what else I got here. Oh, in the NBA, the finals start this week. It'll be the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks, the 2 best teams probably in the NBA, facing off. NASCAR's in Sonoma, California this week. It's a road course, and Chase Elliott usually does pretty good in these. In Major League Baseball, Angel Hernandez is no longer an umpire. After 33 years of umpiring, he's retiring. What happened was he had a meeting with the Major League Baseball people, and they basically told him that was going to be it for him. And he stormed out all mad and everything and hadn't been seen since. So no more Angel Hernandez and his bad strike calls. The Atlanta Braves were shut out today by the Boston Red Sox. That's the first time they've been shut out since May of last year. That was the longest streak in Major League Baseball. But like I said, the Red Sox shut them out today. They'll have to start a new streak. Well, that's about all I got for tonight. I'll try to have something more interesting next week. But anyway, that's it for the referee's call. We'll see you next week.
Well, that's not good. That's better. Hey, it's 3 minutes to talk with Bill, and I am pleased as can be to have Debbie Bell here with us, an accomplished hiker. How are we doing tonight, Debbie?
Good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's absolutely a pleasure, and we are glad to have you here. Let me ask you a question. You know, I went out walking the other day, and I kind of call walking hiking, and I was out and I was hiking around this lake, and it turned out it was like about a mile, and I did real well. And I said, well, I mean, if I can walk around that lake for a mile, you know, it's not much hill. It's pretty flat. You know how a lake is. Do you think I could hike? You know, I think I'd like to go on a 5 or 6 mile hike, or maybe even camp out. And what have I got to get from where I'm at now that's able to walk around the lake to walking 5 or 6 miles and maybe even a 10-mile hike down the road?
Well, I think you need to do some planning. You need to know what your limits are. You need to think about what you're going to need while you're out in the woods and how far back country you're going to be. Are you hiking 5 or 6 miles in a county park? Are you hiking 5 or 6 miles up in the national forest and you're going to be way off the road? You have to plan for the worst case scenario. What if you fall and break your ankle? What are you going to do then? So I think that's where the planning comes in. A lot of people take a notion to go for a hike and they don't put a lot of thought into it, and they could really get in some trouble.
Well, what do I need? What do I need? What's the most important things?
Food and water. You need to carry plenty of drinking water and electrolytes and some snacks, at least for a day hike, and a map of where you're going. A lot of people, and I'm very big on gadgets, and I love my navigation programs and my watch with the GPS in it, but a paper map is always a good backup, or at least study the map if you're comfortable reading maps and know, where you're going and what's around you. And those are the basics. A jacket depends on the season of the year and what kind of weather you're looking at. A flashlight or a headlamp, and some kind of poncho or rain jacket. Those are the basics.
Well, I'm kind of hefty now. I've been sitting around and relaxing for the last 6-8 years, doing a whole lot of nothing. You think that really matters? I mean, I'm a pretty tough old guy. Yeah, I mean, I'm only about 25 pounds overweight. I'm pretty tough. You think I could just hump it up a hill and, just say I wanted to go do the Appalachian Trail with some
No,
of my buddies?
I wouldn't try that. I wouldn't try the AT for starters. That's pretty daunting. I would start in a local park and work your, improve your stamina a little bit and improve your cardio and strengthen your body, because you've got to figure, even for a day pack, you're probably carrying, 8 to 10 pounds at least.
So you think getting a pack and going out walking a mile or two a day and just training so I actually need to train some before I get out there on those hills.
You would. I would start with if a mile is comfortable and you don't feel overly stressed, start with a mile, do a mile for a couple of days, for a couple of weeks, and then start adding distance from there. And then you can start looking at some more challenging trails. I started out hiking at Pine Mountain, which is in Middle Georgia. So it's got some ups and downs, but it's nothing like hiking in the bigger mountains up in North Georgia.
I see. Well, Debbie, we appreciate you taking your time to come by and visit and give us your words of wisdom. And if you have any other questions about hiking, go to our Facebook group, Intelligent Ramblings Friends, and I'm sure Debbie wouldn't mind. She is now obviously an Intelligent Ramblings friend, and hopefully she will answer some questions for you if you have any on hiking. And like I said again, I appreciate you taking the time to come on here and visit with us and give us some words of wisdom. And like you said, it is something you got to plan for, and you can run into a worst case scenario up there. I've seen it and I've lived it. So I understand exactly what you're talking about.
All right. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, Debbie.
That was good.
That's not the right one.
Best thing for you, Bill, is to not hike by yourself.
Yeah, I was kind of fibbing when I said I'm 25 pounds overweight and all that stuff. I just wanted to use that as an example. I'm an avid hiker, as you all guys all know. John Cone over there is a pretty good hiker too. And we have been, John and I did what was that tough one we did last year? John?
The last one we did was about 8 miles.
So, that's a nice little hump. And the one thing that Debbie said that I really want to emphasize is the fact that you need to prepare for the worst case scenario, because I could go on about a 15-minute story about it, but just a synopsis is that I fell on one of my hikes and I was by myself. And I was 7 miles from nowhere. I mean, literally. My car was 7 miles behind me, and I had to finish up the rest of it. When I fell, I had a bruise on my thigh that big. And everybody see that big? I mean, I'm not exaggerating. And I was in extreme pain, and I had to finish my hike up to the top of the mountain just to get to the camp spot, and then camp there overnight in pain, and then get up and do the 8.5 miles or 9 miles back to my car the next day. It was miserable. I swear, I didn't hike again for like 4 months, because I was scared to go hiking by myself, because I didn't want something. I could have broken my leg very easily. And
Oh, yeah.
It's something you just can't. You have to prepare yourself physically, mentally, and with the like a first aid kit. I mean, that's something you have to have. You have to have a first aid kit, because you don't know. And you may run into somebody else that's up there that's hurt. And you need to render aid.
Hey, really quick about Debbie. She is an accomplished hiker. and I really wish she was still on for a moment because she mentioned take electrolytes with you. And one of the first hikes I did with Bill, Debbie was on the hike also. And thanks to her, she had thought ahead, brought some electrolytes that I could put in my water. And that with those, I was able to get up and get rid of the cramps that I had that were just about locking me up. So many thanks to Debbie. And she's also a great botanist. And she can, if there is a flower, a fungus, a bush, a shrub, a berry, you name it on the trail, she can identify it and tell you, is it safe to eat? You know, what can you use it for? Just a great, like Bill said, accomplished hiker.
And I'm going to put up a slideshow of some stuff that she gave me to put on our friends group site, and you're more than welcome to go there and check it out. And if you, like I said, if you have any questions, we definitely can find them. Let's go over some of the chats we missed. Fred Tauber says, as much of a fan that I am of college sports, I really question whether sports, especially football and basketball, are consistent with the mission of colleges and universities. There's no pretense that many of the athletes are in school for an education.
Very
That's
true,
right.
Fred.
Absolutely agree.
If they choose to, they can get on a whole different curriculum track that doesn't look anything like what the other students are doing, and it is kind of funny. I think back to what Stetson Bennett said. He said, "We're not here to play college. We're here to play football," and it just goes a long way to explaining how much they really are no longer student athletes. And they can't be.
And one more Fred had. CC
Well,
and
you
the
know,
NBA is a great story right now.
Yeah, we talked
absolutely.
about Caitlin, and
She has picked it up, buddy.
she needs to slap one of those girls that keeps fouling her. They keep banging into her and knocking her down.
Well, they're just welcoming.
Oh, they got,
So welcome to the WNBA thing. She's a rookie, and they're gonna mess with her until she figures out how to deal with them. And yeah, punching one of them in the mouth and getting her ass kicked probably would be a good thing.
yeah.
They could, I mean, the league could help, and her team and teammates could help some. I mean, every rookie deserves to go through what all the other rookies go through, but some of that stuff is over the line.
Oh yeah.
Her teammates are wimps. Well, if they don't
Yeah, they
protect
don't
her,
take
they
up
are.
far.
They don't
Yeah,
protect
they
her.
need to take up far.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty much it, guys. Y'all hang around after the show,
Well,
and go ahead, Gary.
Well, again, let me remind you about tomorrow, the anniversary of D-Day. I think they're less than 1%, or somewhere around 1% of the people that fought in World War II are still alive now. I heard a statistic on ABC News. Bill, by the way, I watch ABC News too, because usually on their nightly newscast, they end with something called America Strong. It's a very positive story. And David Muir is over at Normandy now, and he'll be broadcasting from there tomorrow. But I think I heard him
I
say
saw
that
the
we're
same
losing
story.
like 100 in this country. In this country today, we're losing 131 of those veterans every day. So soon, the ones that we're talking to are 98, 99, 100, 101, 102 years old. Some of them are actually
Yeah.
making the trip back for the 80th anniversary to go back over there. One
Yeah,
guy's
my daddy would
102.
have been 102
He's
this year.
22 years old when they stormed the beach. Yeah, mine would have been 105. So, yeah, those are the greatest generation. And again, literally save the world.
Oh yeah.
If the Nazis had been allowed to develop the atomic bomb first and had those V-2 rockets to carry them, we would be living in a much different climate.
Well, thanks for the
Thank you to
reminder,
the greatest generation.
Gary, of how important it is. I heard somebody say that now there are no World War
Yeah, go on,
II
have some fun.
veterans in the Senate anymore, which is kind of scary.
No, they'd have to be almost 100 years old.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd have to be.
Also, I'd like to thank the people that listen to us, as they don't want to have to look at us, but they do listen to us, and I appreciate that. And please follow us again. Follow us on our group page at facebook.com/groups Intelligent Ramblings, where you can make your comments about the show, if you like it or if you didn't, or if what you did like, or any questions that you might have. Gentlemen, y'all have a good evening.
You too, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Same to you, Bill. Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.
Good night, guys.